Good afternoon and welcome. You are tuned in to another episode of Doctor2Doctor in the Chatroom on 94.7 FM. And we are so thankful that you did come back to share this hour with us. And you can continue to share this hour with us by just dialing us up on 94.7 FM, or you can stream live on WOJG.com. That's every Saturday right here on Doctor2Doctor in the Chatroom at 2 p.m. We are so appreciative to you guys for sharing this hour with us and your continued support. We always say we cannot do it without you. And we want to remind you to be safe as we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and use those necessary precautions to stay safe as you are enjoying this thing called life with family and friends. Just do what you need to do to stay safe. If you don't want to get vaccinated, at least wear those masks, and just do what you need to do to keep yourselves and those around you safe. Hello, Dr. West. How are you, ma'am?
Good, Dr. Shaw. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Just glad to be here. Yeah. We have another exciting topic, and I kind of shared off air that I had this young man on some time ago, but we had some technical difficulties, but he has agreed to come back and talk to us. And I am so grateful because I know that he is busy. He's been out of town and coming back into town and coming right in to do this. So thank you so much, sir. We'll be talking to him in just a moment. It seems that there's this trend of, these tiny houses, this social movement going on right now, and people are choosing to either downsize the space that they live in and just simply live with less. People are just kind of embracing this tiny life philosophy and the freedom that it encompasses, this whole tiny house lifestyle. This movement is about more than simply living in a small space, right? Although that's certainly a part of it. People can get into the tiny house movement for different reasons, but I think the most popular reason might be, environmental concerns or financial reasons, or just the desire for more time and freedom. And like I said, just to downsize. So this young man has been a part of the movement in Memphis, Tennessee, and I think around the world, because I think he's done some work in a whole lot of places, and he's going to tell us more about what all he's done. Mr. Dwayne Jones, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. We want you to just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we're going to jump into this discussion about tiny homes.
Sure. I'm a native Memphian. I grew up in Orange Mound, attended city schools, graduated from Melrose High, and had the opportunity to go to Tennessee State and major in architecture engineering. So from there, I worked in Los Angeles with Turner Construction, worked in Pennsylvania and out of Atlanta and 7 states for Carlisle Syntex, came back to Memphis, got my general contractor's license, and I worked as a consultant and as a project manager for the city of Memphis for 16 years. So I've been a contractor since 1991.
Is that 1991?
Yes, I've been a general contractor since 1991. And I've done mission work in Ghana and Togo, West Africa, India, and Haiti, and recently became a children's book author last year. So
that's right. You'll have to tell us more about that, and you'll have to tell us about your mission work as well, okay? As we move into this discussion, we want to hear about all of that. But let's start with the tiny homes, okay? Let's just give a definition of what a tiny home is. Let's just talk about that first.
Sure. They have one that's called tiny houses on wheels, and most of those are basically built on trailers. And then they have what's called a traditional tiny house, in which most people identify anything less than 400 square feet. But sometimes people just call anything less than 800 square feet a tiny house. And a tiny house traditionally has all the features of a regular house, but it just, it's just smaller in size.
Okay. How did you become a tiny home enthusiast?
Well, actually, I've volunteered with Habitat and quite a few organizations over the years. I got a chance to go with Habitat Global Village to Ghana and Togo, West Africa. And during those times, I saw how people were living in small huts, and the same thing in India, same thing in Haiti. So I came back here and through my works with the homeless, it's like, people can live in a smaller carbon footprint and still be happy. And so I saw people living in rooming house, sleeping on the street. So I thought I'd try to get involved and build something small for people to live in.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So, Mr. Dwayne, you had mentioned, some reasons that people might purchase or live in a tiny home. What are some of the other reasons a person might say, I'm going to go from whatever square foot house they live in to a tiny home? What are some of the other reasons that people might go this direction?
Well, I found through my research and actually building them, there's several reasons. They go from the millennials who don't want to spend a lot of money on a house note, and they want something small, and they're actually going out to eat a lot and they're traveling. So they want to spend that disposable income basically on entertainment and lifestyle instead of a permanent home. They may not have a large family at the time, so a small home will work perfectly. Then I have a lot of elderly people who are downsizing. Everybody has moved out and gone on, and they don't want to maintain the 3-4 bedroom home where they once had a family. They need a smaller house to take care of. And then there's always the reason of a person just needs something that's affordable. It's smaller than a larger home.
Yeah.
Do you purchase tiny homes? Is the process for that the same as the way you would go about purchasing a traditional home?
Actually, sure. Basically, we just use the tagline as tiny homes. But when you go to a lender, you just tell them you're purchasing a small house, because a lot of people refer to a tiny home. When you get tiny homes on wheels, it's hard to find a traditional mortgage. So you have to actually pay out of pocket or get a personal loan or line of credit. They don't typically do mortgages on tiny homes on wheels. But if you purchase a tiny house that's on a conventional or a slab that's built on the ground, you'll get a traditional mortgage, and it just will be a smaller home.
So you said that, basically these homes have just what any traditional home would have, right? But I've seen some in media on some articles that I've read where people are getting really creative with these homes. What's the most creative thing you've done with one of your tiny homes that you built? Well,
it depends. If we're talking about tiny homes on wheels, there's one thing. But if we're talking about a traditional tiny home that's built on a concrete slab, I did vaulted ceilings. I've done 9-foot ceilings. The most creative thing I've done is actually gone in and put barn doors, been able to put a full-size refrigerator and a miniature 24-inch stove that has 4 aisles on it and baking area. So a full shower with the 12-inch tile going to the ceiling. To be able to put the same features I do in traditional, 2,000, 3,000 square foot home, I put those same features as my tiny homes. So that's one thing that sticks out or stands out that I do that a lot of tiny house people don't do.
I watched you in a TV.
Interesting.
I think we were overlapping, Dr. West. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, this is so interesting to me because I'm an avid HGTV watcher. And so, there's that show, Tiny Homes, on there. And just having you on the show and talking about it makes it a real thing for me. Like, you see things on TV and you kind of write them off as like, oh, this is just, a
TV.
Small. Yeah, exactly. But to have someone who actually builds them, who actually lives, in the same city that I do, I'm like, wow, this is a real thing.
Yeah, it's actually for real. With you, when I started, it wasn't much interest until they started putting those shows on TV. Now everybody wants them for various reasons, and it's a growing trend, and a lot of people love them. And the one thing about it is being affordable, because the price of housing is houses in Memphis are steady going up. In Nashville, it's through the roof. But right now, we have a bumper crop of people who are interested, and it's primarily price driven.
Mm-hmm. I saw you on a TV interview. It's been a while ago now, and you were talking about, you know, how the feedback has been so mixed. Is that still the case now that, you know, people are seeing it more like on HTV, you know, TV and all of that, or are people more open to it? What is it like? What is the feedback like?
Well, the feedback is still mixed, but it has shifted from people not liking the houses to them being concerned at the cost of the house. And I tell people, just because the house is small, we still have a bathroom, a kitchen, heat and air system. So the thing is, a lot of people think they can get one because Home Depot and a lot of people advertise for $15,000, but that's just a shell. It doesn't have a slab. It doesn't have electrical, flooring, drywall.
Oh.
So they present that to people. Oh, you can build this 2-story for $15,000, but they're missing out about $40,000 worth of interior stuff and prep work that goes into it. So a lot of people are embracing it now that they actually see some in Memphis, because I had a gentleman come over to me one time and said, "Why are you building these dog houses for people to live in?" I was like, "They're not dog houses." Oh. So once we got the house built, nice, he came, it's like, "Man, I stand corrected. This is a beautiful product."
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people that are extended stay and sleeping on people's couches. So this is a great alternative. And I always tell people, it may not be for you, but it is for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some intertwining of the tiny homes and homelessness? Like, are tiny homes being used to address homelessness in some areas?
Absolutely. I started building tiny homes, and one of the third house that I built, a young lady, Kayla Gore, with my sister's house, she purchased it for her organization. She houses transgender Black women. So they purchased that house, and then they came back and had an architect out of Indianapolis, DKGR, design, and then she raised funds. And we just completed last week a tiny house duplex that has 2 studio units that are 400 square feet each. Wow. And then I built one in Orange Mound, and Homes for Hearts, they purchased it on Josephine Street. So a lot of nonprofits are starting to purchase tiny houses, and Black Lives Matter just put 2 under contract. So it's being used by nonprofits.
That would be in Orange Mound, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my guy grandmother is in Orange Mound. Well, she was in Orange Mound, and I know about, like, Orange Mound is kind of my old stomping grounds, right? And I know about all of the shotgun houses. She lived in one of those shotgun houses. And, you know, what a beautiful thing it would be to drive down Saratoga and see all of those shotgun houses now as tiny homes. That would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've been trying to acquire lots, but people have been holding on to the lots. And unfortunately, outside investors, people from out of town have been purchasing lots, and the price of the land is actually going up. So I'm still trying to work my magic, but at the price point of the houses, I actually built a tiny house and sold it for $50,000, $55,000 on Dedrick. And two doors down, there's a vacant lot. They have it for sale for $60,000. It's the lot only. So it's ridiculous that out of town people are buying lots and hoping that they can flip it and make some money, or somebody buy it and put it in the house.
What can the community do to kind of help support these efforts?
The biggest thing we can do is we can talk to our legislators. One thing about a tiny house, it does not have to be one on a lot. We can put multiple on a lot, but right now our zoning would not allow us to put anything other than a second unit without going through the variance process. So I've been advocating for container homes, which I call them modular homes because they don't like the word container, and high density lots, so we can put multiple on at one time, multiple tiny homes. They have pocket neighborhoods where you can put 4 or 5 and actually doing it in peer cities like Nashville. So if I can get people to help advocate, talk to our city council and our county commissioners and get them to change the ordinance so we can allow more density, that would be the biggest thing right now.
What's the fear or what's the issue with having tiny homes?
The biggest issue is people just, for some reason, they don't like the size. Everybody like bigger is better. And to be honest with you, as American and have been traveled for years in various countries, our carbon footprint is humongous compared to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take somebody who lives in New York, a tiny house would be the size of an apartment there.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the square footage, everybody, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I need at least 100 by 200 lot. And, they just live in a house by themselves. They just want to say they have. I have friends that have 3,000, 4,000 square foot house. The children are gone. They may be single, but that's what people just want to have, big stuff. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is just changing the mindset of people to believe that they can live comfortable in smaller square footage or a smaller carbon footprint.
I want us to talk about, I don't know, as we started this discussion, now I'm thinking my thought processes are all over the place. And I'm thinking about, what a great positive ripple effect this could be and how it could address so many things. You know what I'm saying? The homelessness, or cleaning up neighborhoods, right? And making neighborhoods look more presentable, right? Even though, like you say, it may not be the bigger, it's a smaller version of something really nice and that looks good and beautifies our communities or whatever. So let's talk more about tiny homes. We're here with Mr. Dwayne Jones. We're talking tiny houses on 94.7 FM. We will be right back in a moment.
Yeah.
And we are still here on 94.7 FM with Mr. Dwayne Jones. We are talking about the tiny homes, and he is a contractor, a builder, and he has done so many things around the world. You mentioned earlier when you were kind of telling us a little bit about who you are, that you do mission work. Talk about that a little bit. And did the tiny homes, were they kind of involved in what you were doing in your mission work?
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of sparked my interest. I had an uncle who was a professional musician from Motown, and he used to go over to Uganda with Miles Monroe, and he did a lot of ministry work before he passed. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to go. He'd come home and tell me about his trip. So I wanted to go to Africa. And eventually I saved up enough money and I went to Ghana and Togo, West Africa, and went through Habitat Global Village, which is the international version of Habitat for Humanity. Mm-hmm. And my first trip, I stayed 34 days and I got a chance to build houses and meet people and do a lot of things. I went up to the Cape Coast and Kumasi, Accra, and I just loved my experience. So went back, told my pastor, I did Olivet with Pastor Whalum.
Yeah.
And basically he put me over in the mission work. And from there, I started going to India. And at 14, I started doing Haiti in 2008. And 2003 was my first trip to Africa, to Ghana and Togo. So I made several trips since then. But it all started my interest in tiny houses because I was seeing the hut, small block buildings that they were living in. So I fell in love and came back and modified it to a U.S. version.
Mm-hmm. What prompted the children's book?
Well, actually, when I travel and go abroad, I spend a lot of time at orphanages, and the kids, they range anywhere from 1 and 2 years old to teenagers. And they always ask me, what do you do back in the U.S.? I'm a contractor. It's like, well, what is a contractor? So I find myself explaining the work I do in terms that children can understand. So I decided I was going to write a 12-book series.
Wow.
So I've actually 12 books, and I've actually self-published 3 that are out now. And so that's how the stories came about. And they're based off of real people and real stories, but with a child's spin to it. You know, the first book, I'm using a hammer, going around the house, fixing the wood fence, fixing the roof. And then in the end, I end up helping a little girl finish up a tree house that she wanted. The second book, I'm with my brother and my cousins, and we were actually painting a house. And the third book, we're building a wood fence. So the fourth book will be out next month, and I'm building a handicap accessible wheelchair ramp for my mother. So all my books right now have African American themed characters, and it shows Black ownership of homes, Black ownership business, and basically I was doing it just to show the kids. They were excited when I took them some books back last year, but it's taken legs of its own, and I've had people from all over the world reach out about my book. So the book thing has taken a different life, but I just give God all the glory because I was not expecting this.
That is so amazing.
That's
and
so
it's
fast.
so awesome. It's so awesome. So you'll have to tell us before we end the show how we can get those books, okay? And let our audience know how we can get the books. We'll do that at the end of the show so people won't forget. But that's just so awesome. And I mean, and just as the educator in me is like, my ears were just like, woo, yay, you know, and the fact that they are culturally themed. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. And I love that, you know, you get to show young kids something different. I mean, this is something totally different, something totally outside of the box that they may not even ever fathom. So as you were talking about that, I'm thinking about, you know, adolescent ages, teenagers. How would what would you tell them are the, you know, steps or the process? Like if they wanted to become you when they grow up, how do they go about doing that?
Well, pre-pandemic, Home Depot used to always have little workshops for kids where they can build birdhouses and little projects. So hopefully they'll bring that back. But a lot of people get involved in the scouts, get involved in the community, volunteer with Habitat. And I just started out just cleaning up. You know, my parents used to have rental property. They used to just let me go clean up the trash and just being around the guys, being familiar with the sites. You know, and it's a great opportunity to see different parts of the city, see different stuff happen. And I encourage kids to take as much math as possible. That's the best way to get involved. So you know the angles, how to read a tape measure. But even if you're not good at math, you know, practice your hand skills, because being a person that can paint, you know, it takes a steady hand, and it's very rewarding to be able to do plumbing. So it's a lot of things you can learn by a specific trade, vocational school, but math is the fundamental if you want to do the design part and the actual building part.
Wow.
I'm sure there's lots of liability tied to maybe having children on site when when you're building and all of that. But, you know, what a great thing if they could, you know, be a part of what you and other people such as yourself, you know, do to kind of be hands-on and learn. And maybe that's a thought, you know, as you promote your books and everything, being able to actually give some children, just a few, you know, some opportunities to be a little hands-on sometimes.
Yeah, actually we have over the last, say 20 years, I've had some programs where I actually took young men from the neighborhood, and I purchased paint and I let them paint seniors in the neighborhood homes who couldn't probably afford it. And also this past summer, because of COVID, we had small groups, but I worked with SOS, and they actually had some teams that came in, and they assisted in a portion of the project. We actually built a house on Oxford Street in Binghamton, and we had them come in, help frame the walls offsite, and with supervision, of course. They came in and helped insulate. They came in and helped paint, but I had other trades to do the drywall, electrical, plumbing, and things like that. They helped with the landscaping, put down the sod. So there were some phases that we actually had some teenagers and some young people. I think they were as young as like 7 or 8 years old.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I plan to get to the capacity where I can actually offer a boot camp in the summertime, and maybe eventually open up a vocational school, because there are a lot of young people.
Oh my goodness,
great career path, and then there are a lot of people that have records that can't find a traditional job, and it'd be a great opportunity.
And we don't push that enough. You know, we
Wow.
push college. We don't push learning a trade enough. And so thank you for that. What about your challenges? I know that part of it has been the buy-in, but what have been your greatest challenges and what have been your greatest successes as you've done this work?
My biggest two challenges is always finding funding for projects, because a lot of people don't believe in the inner city. And then when I'm trying to get appraisals, get comps and things like that, is very difficult. So just trying to secure the funding to do the projects, because I tell people all the time, nobody's going to just run to the inner city and build. They have the capacity to do uptown and everything they want to, but nobody sees the value in rebuilding the inner city. And if they do, it's typically a nonprofit. They're doing something cookie cutter with a government subsidy. I have not received any government subsidy for anything I've done. It's either been out of pocket, private investors, or a loan that I secured. So funding is always a challenge. And another challenge is encouraging people to look out for materials. I've had a lot of theft. People vandalize, steal doors, bust windows, and take wood. So I haven't been discouraged to the point where I want to stop, but it is disheartening that people in the neighborhood see what I'm doing to better the neighborhood, and I still get attacks. So those have been my biggest challenges. My biggest success is having to see the neighborhoods grow, seeing my product become a viable product in the community, and people get excited about the newness that's coming up in the community. So those have been my biggest joys right there, just to see the neighborhoods change and the people excited about having a new home.
Yeah.
Does the community seem to respond in a positive way once you are, complete with your projects?
Yeah, I think they're a little skeptical when they see the concrete slab, because it looks kind of small before we put wood on it.
Yeah.
But then when they see the walls go up, see the painting and so forth, they kind of embrace it a little bit more. So it's like, let me wait and see before they actually buy into the concept.
And then once they see, then are there people that are like, oh man, I'd like to have one of those? Because I'm thinking I'd like to have one of those.
Absolutely. And it has never failed. The last one we sold, it was a guy, he was so complaining about y'all putting this little crap up in the neighborhood. But by the time we got it framed, he would come down there every day. Man, take my number, man. I need the next one. I need the next one. So he's going to United House to get him a mortgage to qualify for he and his wife to move in one. So he went from my biggest hater to one of my biggest supporters. He called me like every week. Man, how close we get to building mine? How close we get? So I go from 0 to 100. Do a degree turn on their feelings about it, because he can see himself in one now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's probably a matter of seeing it in full completion. Like now, once you see it, this is built with the same kind of material that a traditional house is. It's got the siding. I mean, I'm looking at your your picture that has tiny homes, and the ones you even see on TV. They've got the regular siding. They've got windows. They've got all the bells and whistles of a real house. And I guess once people finally see the completed form, then they're more likely to buy into it.
Yeah, and one thing that I did, I kind of doing like the next level. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I was trying to get lots, and Memphis has what's called a Blight Authority of Memphis. And it's the land bank version of what Shelby County has been doing for years. So I went online and I put a bid in for 16 lots. I was able to successfully get 12. And I was in the first group, and it's like, hey, what are you going to do with these? I said, I'm going to build affordable housing. So I've been doing a 1-bedroom, and I got a 2-bedroom I'm starting. I got one that's under construction by Hamilton on Silver Street. So I said, well, in the next mix, I'm going to actually put in some 3-bedroom. So I have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house that's 750 square feet. 750, that's pretty small. But what I did with the 12 lots, I said I'm gonna do 4 1-bedroom, 4 2-bedrooms, and 4 3-bedrooms. I spoke to my realtor, and he put them on the market Monday, and all 3 all of the 3-bedrooms sold out within 2 hours. So I went back Tuesday and told them, hey, I haven't built them yet. Turn them all into 3-bedrooms. So now I have 12 3-bedrooms, and we have 5 sold in 2 days. And by Friday, all 12 of those will be sold. So right now, there's a big market that people want that 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. So we're in the process of trying to find some more lots. They're just moving too fast.
So what about
Wow.
what about the dimension? So when you think of a tiny home and those dimensions, how does that impact like appliances? Do you just buy regular appliances? Is, regular bed? What does that piece of it look like?
Well, the only one that really has maybe some restriction is I have a 1-bedroom that's 200 square feet. It's a 10 by 28. And the bedroom is actually a 10 by 9. So you can get a full-size bed in there comfortable. And it has a place for a stackable washer and dryer, full size. But in the kitchen, we had a 24-inch stove, and we had it's a 20-inch stove and a 24-inch refrigerator, but it has a freezer up top. And the stove is a full size 4-aisle burner, and you can bake on the inside. But other than that, we have a 480 square foot 1-bedroom. It has a full 30-inch stove, 36-inch wide refrigerator, and full wash and dry. And all the other houses, the 2 and 3 bedrooms, they have full appliances as well. Full size tub, full toilet, full vanity. The only one that's smaller is just the small 280 square foot. So everything is just like you would put in a regular home.
Just standard. Yeah. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It is. What level of impact do you think that tiny homes might have on the affordable housing issue? I know a minute ago you were just talking about how fast they flew off the market. Do you ever get into the same kind of bidding war type situation that people have been in with traditional homes?
So far, I haven't, because I work both sides of the market. I do the upper end, but on the tiny houses, I'm working the market. Nobody in the city is even touching that market. So the lots that are just they're waiting to gentrify or to build something that's 1,200, 1,400 square feet, but nobody's building tiny houses. Only person I know is a guy up in East, and he's doing them tiny houses on wheels and selling them across the country. But as far as actually going into a neighborhood, not a single soul. And I think it's a win-win, because it's helping people who traditionally wouldn't be able to buy through your tiny house. They have where you can pay $400 down. Your mortgage may be anywhere between $280 to maybe $350 to own. You can't even rent it. And then this is brand new. A lot of houses in the city right now, they don't have central heat and air. They got plaster walls, no insulation, so the utility bill is high. So it's a lot of things. And then a great benefit for the city is went from being a vacant lot to having a house that's paying property taxes.
Yes.
Right.
So it's a win-win for everybody. You rebuilding neighborhoods, putting taxes in the coffers, and giving people an opportunity to purchase who would not traditionally be able to buy a home.
Mm-hmm. So the utilities, you just mentioned utilities. Can you tell us, like, do you know people that have bought these homes, if they're spending, a lot on utilities, or just the average of what anybody else, is it saving anybody anything in that arena?
Well, the utilities are quite low compared to other homes. The biggest thing is right now, when you pay for utilities, you're paying for mosquito control, trash, and street lights and things like that. So just the basic utility service is like $50. Mm-hmm. So other than that, I think everybody's utility has been less than $100. I think even at peak time, it may have been like $80. Somebody might have $112. Nobody has had an astronomical utility bill, because the heating air is energy efficient. They have low E windows. The walls are insulated, ceiling fan. Everything is energy efficient, and energy efficient appliances. So utility has not been a significant part of the budget for most people.
Yeah. So, smart homes, that's a big to do now in this world that we live in. Let's talk about the smart home element of tiny homes when we come back from break. We'll be right back in a moment. And we are still here on 94.7 FM with Mr. Dwayne Jones. We're talking about tiny homes. So is there such thing as a smart home with these tiny homes?
Yeah, they are, but some of the features we allow the new person moving in to actually add those features. But some of the things we can provide systems that are comparable to the Ring doorbell. We have heating and air systems with the thermostat can be automated and work by phone, outside security lighting. There are quite a few features, and also connected up where you have something similar to Alexa or a similar service. Where you have surround sound, refrigerators, you have timers on your lights. Everything that you could put in a large home, they can be added to a tiny home. One thing that I would like to do in the future, but right now the cost is so astronomical, I just can't afford solar. If I could ever get to the point where I do solar, that would be a plus. And most of the houses are all electrical based because it costs so much to add gas. So we just keep it simple. So the central heat and air is electric, the stove is electric, hot water tank is electric, everything is electric.
Who is the target customer for tiny homes, or is there a target customer?
Well, when I first started out, I was looking for, we have a big population of people that are staying in the stays, room and house and so forth, and they pay anywhere between $100 to $150 a week. So those people are paying $400 to maybe $600 a month. So if they can do that, my thinking was, hey, they could afford a $300 a month mortgage and own something. So it's a lot of people that don't that may get $800 to $1,200 a month that cannot afford to purchase or rent a home and pay $1,000 to $1,200 per se. So that was my initial. But then I started having the millennials like, hey, I don't want to buy a big house. I'm tired of renting. I want my own backyard. I want to have a dog, blah, blah, blah. So millennials started reaching out. And then I had a few elderly people that reach out. Say, hey, my family is grown. So my family is grown. And basically, I don't need as much house. So it's all over the place right now. You got people that want to buy for Airbnb and investment properties. So it's a wide range of people right about now.
Yeah. So you mentioned about a $300 mortgage on a tiny home. What about down payments? If there's somebody listening, they're like, oh, I might be able to, swing $300 a month, especially on something that I can own. What are the down payment options, or what do they look like for tiny homes these days?
Sure. If you go to any traditional lender, I have just been referring people to United Housing because they have a program where they work with people that have credit issues as well. And from what I'm hearing, for at least $400, $500 down, get into a house. And basically, they have THDA and other city grant funding. They have veterans programs where they give you up to $10,000 or 10% of the cost of your house. So I've seen Pinnacle Bank, Simmons Bank, a lot of banks are offering down payment assistance because they have to provide funds for distressed areas and neighborhoods with CRA funding requirements. So right now, a person for less than $1,000, depending on your credit worthiness, I've seen people, like I say, spend $400 or $500 for down payment assistance, but you have to take home education classes, prepare you for the upkeep, the maintenance, and understand about property taxes and the difference between a mortgage and paying rent. Because people come to me, it's like, well, how much my rent gonna be? If you buying a house, you're not renting, you're paying a mortgage.
Yeah.
So I had people actually call me and say, after they bought the house, my light bulb went out. Like, well, once you bought the house, I bring you some light bulb, but you're responsible for the maintenance. I'm not gonna come by and maintain your house. You're responsible for cutting your grass. And so they go through all that with the new potential buyers, so they understand the difference between renting and owning.
So this is a great opportunity for like first time buyers too, right? And not to have to have this great loan, this big old loan. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a gentleman, he was like 21, 22, purchased a house, and he was a military guy, and he said, it's just him. He doesn't have any kids, no wife. So he said, this would be a good starter home for me. And from there, if I do get married, decide to move up, I use it as an investment property. So he's looking long term, but right now, you know, he's acting on, he left before he closed on the house, and before he had moved in, he went active duty. So he didn't move into the house until like 7 months later. The house just sat there. But he was so excited when he came back, and now he's in the house. And because he's in the neighborhood I live in, I still live in Orange. So I passed by, and he's just excited. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Dwayne? Thank you for my house. And 22-year-old
Yeah.
homeowner.
Yeah. That's great. I talked to you about my guy grandmother, you know, living over on Saratoga in a shotgun house. So, you know, tell our audience the difference between a tiny home and the shotgun house. How do we distinguish those? Because I think a lot of people think they're synonymous.
Well, actually, they're really the same. It's just like they just gave it a different buzzword, a new name. And so a shotgun house, the only difference is the square footage is similar or the same. It's just the design. It was a narrow house that went from front to back, and basically you didn't have rooms separated as much. You walk through the kitchen, or you might walk through a bedroom going into the back. So now we actually just finished up one in North Memphis where it's like a studio with the bathroom separated. So the size is similar to a shotgun house, but it was just a style where all of them were narrow and long and skinny, like a shotgun. And now tiny homes may be wide or box shaped. So the shape just changed.
Were the shotgun houses on the slab? Were they built on the slab too? Because it seems like I remember.
Most of them were built on a slab or conventional where they were up off the ground with wood. So they did a mixture of both of Orange Mound, but they all had their little narrow look in the front, just real skinny. You can go by and look at a lot of them on Carnes. There's still a few on Park Avenue, and they long skinny house.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
What about shipping containers? Can you build a tiny house out of those as well?
Yes, I can. But right now, that's one of those things I was talking about. We need public support and public pressure, because they have outlawed shipping containers in residential areas for only if you go get a variance. You cannot build a shipping container home within the city limits of city of Memphis, technically, without getting a variance. You can do it, but going through the variance process requires you to get a vicinity map, drawings, and get approval from your neighbors and the council. It's about a 6 to 8 month process, which will probably cost you a minimum $1,500 to maybe $3,000, and you may not get approved. So we need to get that changed. But yes, I do build shipping containers, but I build them to ship to other places because we can't actually technically do it here. But there's one project I did, well, 2 projects I did do. I got a variance, and I did Box Lot where they had down on Monroe Street, across the street from High Cotton. That was a retail project out of shipping containers. And then recently I just helped Brittany with Juice Orange Mound. I did some temporary living quarters out of shipping containers. It was illegal, but I built it and dropped it because they were putting people out of the building. They were going to sleep on the street. So sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So,
man, to that. So, talk about some of the zoning pros and cons of the for the tiny homes.
The tiny homes, the biggest thing is you can build them. They have a minimum square requirement. I'm basically doing the R6, which means residential, a lot of 6,000. The only thing about code enforcement, they just require you to have a minimum 70 square feet for a living, for a bedroom and living quarters. You have to have a bedroom. You have to have a bathroom with a toilet, sink, tub, and or shower. You have to have an operational kitchen, have to have smoke detector that's hardwired, and your ceiling height cannot be less than 7'6". So as long as you meet all those requirements, there's no minimum size. So technically I've drawn one that's small as 160 square feet. So we're gonna see how this gonna go. I'm trying to work with Brittany right now to do what's called the Juice Village of Orange Mound, where we're gonna do tiny houses on a cluster on a lot for the homeless.
So talk about the Brittany and what she does, because you mentioned it twice.
Yeah, well, Brittany, she's actually working in Orange Mound in the capacity. She has a nonprofit called Juice Orange Mound, and she started out doing wraparound services, and basically she has a garden, she does business incubation, she does a lot of stuff. But during the bad weather snap last year during the pandemic, there was a lot of people that actually needed housing assistance. So she opened up her building and allowed people to come inside and sleep. And for some strange reason, somebody snitched and told or whatever happened. And it ended up, she basically got cited. And so they were trying to close her down, environmental court. It went on for a while. So I reached out to her last year. And about a month ago, they officially closed her down and told the people had to move out. So they didn't have anywhere to go. So I collaborated with her. That's the reason I dropped off the shipping containers for temporary shelter. But her main goal is to provide wraparound services, business incubator, and things like that. And getting into the homeless shelter was just a secondary.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned upkeep earlier when we were talking about, millennials not really understanding all that entails being a homeowner. Are there differences in the amount of upkeep or the type of upkeep with a tiny home versus a traditional home? Any other special considerations that people need to be aware of? Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, you might think it's kind of funny, but the biggest thing is being smaller means you can't have as much stuff. So that's
not funny at all, just true.
And the biggest thing that I've seen is you take a person that has nothing or has maybe 1 or 2 bags, great. But I have a lot of friends, and you ladies may fit in this category. A lot of your shoes probably wouldn't even fit in a tiny house. So,
and Dr. West better not comment on that at all. Okay.
Nope. She is. I'm just gonna laugh.
Yeah, the biggest thing is being able to downsize your living, and clothes is a big issue. Other than that, the bathroom cleaning, the yard maintenance, everything is the same. It's just being able to decide on when and where and what to buy, because you don't have a lot of storage space. You have storage space because we create loft space and attic space in some of them, but it's not like having 3 bedrooms and being able to go put those extra shoes or extra clothes and still have the tags on them in the other room.
Oh, Lord have mercy. He's just hitting us hard, Lord. We sorry.
Yeah. So neither of us could live in a tiny home, I guess, is what he's saying here.
It would be difficult. I mean, I have friends, they got clothes and shoes. I just shake my head. I'm like, wow.
But you know what? There is something to be said about downsizing and kind of minimizing all of the stuff we have. There's a woman who like makes a pretty good living teaching people how to do that.
Yeah.
And teaching them kind of how to still be, okay. And in fact, maybe even feel better without a lot of stuff. I'm not there yet, but maybe one day I will be.
Well, you know what? I actually see the freedom, right? I mentioned when we started the show, I see the freedom in that, right? In living that way. And I could particularly see someone, a couple, or even an individual that has retired and just says, I'm traveling a lot. I just need a place to lay my head every now and then when I come home for a couple of weeks, and and not have all of the upkeep. I mean, I just recently, downsized, and it feels great, because I was one of those people you were talking about in a 3,500 square feet home, and single with you know, kids gone and all of that. So it just didn't make sense anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in that category, and it's amazing. Like I say, it's not necessarily going down to 280 square foot, but even if you downsize to a 480 or a 682, it's like living in a condo. So
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we don't want, we
So-
only have a few minutes left, and I know Dr. West was gonna come in and ask you something. We keep overlapping with each other, but when after she does, I really want you to take a minute and tell our audience how we can get the book, okay? Go ahead, Dr. West.
Mhm. So talk about some future plans, either for you with this with the tiny home in Memphis. Do you have any future plans that you know people should know about? Where can they look for you to pop up next?
Well, actually, I have quite a few future plans in Memphis. Actually, I have a subdivision we just got approved through the Land Use Control Board, and they're not tiny homes. They'll actually be between 200,000 to 80,000 in Cherokee Heights. We have 31 lots that will be available. I actually just got those 12 lots through the BAM and actually put in a bid for 3 more this morning. So we're still building clusters of tiny homes throughout the city. This year, I plan to build at least 50, 60 tiny homes. So that market is still wide open. As far as I just got back from Dallas, Texas this past Sunday, I was there from Wednesday, and there's an organization called Bonton Farms and a church called Watermark Church, and I'm in conversation with them about building affordable and tiny homes in the Dallas, Texas area. So I'm working on a project where we're going to do shelters in McNairy County for Airbnb breakfast getaway. So we have quite a few projects rising. So
Tell us how we can get your books and the names of your books.
sure, everything I do is just my brand, Dwayne Jones, DWAYNE, the letter AJONES.com. And if you click on that link, it takes you to my website, and there's a banner, and you can pull up tiny house information, and there's a banner for the children's book. It takes you to my page where you can purchase the book from my website, or you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Target, and my books are being sold on those sites as well.
Okay, will you give us that site again? DW.
Sure. AYNE. A is an apple. JONES.com. It's my name, Dwayne A. Jones. A lot of people try to spell it DEW, but it's just DWAYNEJONES.
Got it. We got it. And we thank you. We thank you for spending this hour with us. We know that you are very busy, and we appreciate you taking this time. We appreciate you guys for coming back another Saturday to spend an hour with us. Same chat channel, same chat time. We'll see you next Saturday at this time right here on 94.7 FM.